Hello, everybody, and welcome to Public Opinion Millennial Edition with your host, Pam Morton. I am so excited to hear what these young adults have to say about the public opinion question for the week. So let's get started and meet our millennial participants. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to have you all join me, and thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of the show this week. So first we have Brian Morton. Brian is a vice president and a relationship manager for PNC Bank. And then we have Aubrey Hamilton. Aubrey is a NICU. And then we have Alexis Horn. Alexis is an MBA candidate in fashion merchandise. And finally, Taylor Morton. Taylor is a wardrobe stylist for TV and film. So thank you all so very, very much again for agreeing to be on the show this week. And I'm very excited to hear what you all have to say about the public opinion question of the week. So let's get started and see that public opinion question. Do you think couples should live together before getting married? Why or why not? So we're going to start, and Brian, you can go ahead and answer.
Definitely would say yes. I currently am doing that right now. So we'll just put that out there. So not being biased on that answer, but primarily I just think that people should, just based upon the fact that, you get a chance to at least just see how that individual is, prior to going down the road of marriage. And you just, more importantly, just get a chance to just see how that individual can interact with yourself. But more importantly, you can at least just take the time to get a chance to know that person better by living with that person and interacting on that person on a day-to-day basis. Because you at least just get a chance to see how that person feels, see how that person handles different situations. But more importantly, it's just that bond between that individual. And I just think that now things have just changed. I know that, prior to it, like early on, my parents and their parents' that would definitely be something that would be like a no-no. But I think over time, millennials in general have opened up to it a little bit differently and seen it a little bit differently. So that's just the reason, or one of the reasons why I just think that people should.
Okay. All right, great. And now, Aubrey, you want to go ahead and answer that question?
Yeah, so I also agree with Brian. I do think it's important for couples to live together before marriage for a couple reasons. So I think you really get to know that person, their habits, and how those compare to your habits. When you get used to living by yourself, I think you pick up on some things, and so you have to kind of make sure that those habits are going to mesh well. You get to know things that you like about their lifestyle, things that you don't like about their lifestyle. I think it gives you a really realistic idea of what day-to-day life would look like in a marriage with that person, and how you would share responsibilities. So you really learn how to act like a team. So like cooking, cleaning, those types of things is what I mean by responsibilities. And then if we want to talk about money, so I think you can potentially save money on bills if you're splitting expenses such as rent, utilities, groceries, things like that. And then I think you also get a closer look into your partner's spending habits. I think money is always a really big conflict in marriages, so you kind of get a sneak peek into what that would look like later on.
All right. Now, Alexis, what's your opinion about that?
Yes and no kind of answer. Mostly no. I don't think personally, I have zero desire to share bills with someone that I'm not married to. I just feel like that's like a setup for a disaster if your relationship doesn't work out. But the reason I kind of have a yes and no answer is because I think that if you are on the path to marriage, if you're engaged, I would move in after an engagement. Just because I feel like a lot of the things that people look at as like things you would learn with someone you're living with, you really could learn without living with them. Like you can tell if someone's an overspender. If you're in a serious relationship and you're working towards a marriage, finances is something that should have came up a long time ago. So even because even if you're trying to save bills, if that person's credit is in the trash and you go get an apartment, they got an eviction, all this other stuff, you gonna find out when you have nowhere to live. Like that's not gonna work. So I definitely don't. I would personally never live with someone just in a boyfriend girlfriend situation. More so towards an engagement, absolutely.
All right. Now, Taylor, what's your opinion about that?
I kind of have an in-between answer. I think kind of yes and no. Um, I think that you can still observe and get to know somebody without actually living with them. I mean, I think you can get a grasp for people's lifestyle habits and how they are as a person just from hanging out with them, just from spending time with them. And it's not saying you can't sleep over your boyfriend's house or your girlfriend's house and vice versa. I feel like you can kind of pick up on those things when you stay over there and when you just spend a lot of time with them. But I think if you're with somebody and you guys are talking about engagement and it's like in the coming months, then it's like, yeah, moving together. If like an engagement is literally down the line, sure, because you know you want to be committed to that person. But if I don't know I want to be with you, it's just no point of me living with you. I think that's just a waste of time. And I agree with Alexis about the finances stuff. I don't think I think finances can be discussed outside of living together. And all those kinds of things. But I think you can get to know people without actually living with them. And it's like once you're in like a secure, committed relationship where you guys have talked about marriage and like you guys are looking at rings, et cetera, then it's like, okay, you can live in with that person maybe. But more so as like a we're engaged and we plan on getting married in like 6 months. Because that's a whole nother topic is engagements, them being long. I think they should not be long at all. So that's why I'm just like, if we're engaged and we're planning to get married in like 4 months, then you're like, yeah, like we can move in, we could do our thing, we could be cute. But if you're just like my boyfriend and I don't even know if I want to marry you, I'm not living with you. I'm just not doing it. I'm not doing it. I will go to your place. I might even stay over a few days, but I'm not living with you.
All right. All right, that's great. Right. I love those responses because they're so varied. So basically, Alexis and Taylor are pretty much no unless you are engaged. And then Brian and
engaged, about to be engaged, super committed, talk to marriage.
And then Brian and Aubrey, you all are more coming from the sense almost like how you would test drive a car. Like, you know, I'm gonna see how I like it, how it feels. Whether it's good, efficient on gas, you know, that type of thing, you know, how is it with money? But then if it's not what you want, then you can either trade it in for something else or you just won't stay with that particular, you know, thing. Okay, well, I like this discussion. All right. So again, now, Brian, you stated that you think that couples should live together so that they can get to know each other. So you don't think that you can do that if you're not living together?
I mean, of course you can. You know, and I think Taylor and Alexis's points of what they bring up is totally accurate. But I mean, you can get to know each other, I feel like, just more intimately on a personal level by living with that individual. And I think about what they say, and my flip answer sometimes I'm thinking about it is like, well, why? Why is that? Why do you think that way? Because I know that it always is a old school mentality that I sometimes think of. So it is kind of eye-opening sometimes when you actually hear people who are close to the same age as yourself who may think a little bit differently on it. So then you just start to think of like, well, why do they think that way opposed to yourself? And your same age group. So it might not necessarily be an old school mindset of it. It might just be just that person's thinking and that person's thought process on it. But just to answer your question, I do think that you can still get to know that individual without living with that person. I just feel like to Aubrey's points, there's just a lot of different things that you could pick up on by living with that individual. And to you, Mom, test driving a car, those things as well. I mean, it's pretty much kind of the same thing. So you get a chance to really know that individual, especially in the COVID environment these days too. So that's just the reason why I just think that.
Okay, well, does anybody have anything that they want to say in response to what Brian just said?
This isn't actually in response to Brian. I thought of this when Taylor was talking. Another thing about like staying the night and things like that is personally, I'm really big on needing personal space. So like if you live together, you got a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment, you have nowhere to go to be with your own thoughts. And I feel like in a relationship, that is very important, because if you are, especially if y'all like hitting a rough patch, if you are spending every waking moment with this person, you never really get a chance to kind of come to peace with the issue yourself to address it properly. I think like living separately kind of teaches you how to have better conflict management too, because you're not always just in each other's face and you get time to cool down. But as far as what Brian was saying, I do think I wouldn't even say it's like a old school like versus new school thing either. I would kind of more so say it's more like an intentions thing. Like there are some people who are serial daters who love to date, they love to be in relationships, they love to date long term, and they don't want to go nowhere with it, they just want to be together. But I think myself, and I would say Taylor as well, are more intentional daters. Like there is nothing to do here if we're not trying to get married. Like if you don't see me as your wife, that's cool. Someone else does, and I'm gonna go find him. Like I don't think and with that being like my intention or my mindset, I don't think living with somebody in a short-term relationship is conducive to that goal that I've set for myself for marriage.
Now, Aubrey, what do you think
off of that?
I'm sorry, or Taylor, either
I
one.
thought we were bouncing.
Oh yeah.
I was just gonna say, bouncing off of that, yeah, I think it's really just a matter of like knowing what you want and your own expectations. Like I'm a very like date to marry person too. Like I'll be 1 month in, like, so
Literally
gonna get like what's going on? Like my boyfriend now, I'm like we like it's like we talk about those things and we're like, all right, like it's like we have the same mindset on it. Like, all right, because nobody wants to waste their time. I'm a big like firm believer of like my time, and my time is valuable. So it's like I'm never gonna waste time on somebody that doesn't see a future with me, you know. And it's not saying you can't still be with that person. It's just like I'm not gonna live with you.
Yeah, we could just date. Like we could just be together, and when this fizzles out, when it's time to go our separate ways, we'll do that without having to break a lease and split furniture.
Now that is,
I've seen people get in things too where it's messy with your lease, it's messy with that's too much for me. I'll stay with my roommates or I'll just stay by myself until the meantime, et cetera, et cetera.
That is a good question. Now that is a good question, Aubrey and Brian. What do you want to say about that? Like if you were to break up or something of that nature and you're in a lease, what do you think you would do in that regard? You just kind of ride it out or what?
I mean, if that were to happen, obviously I would just break a lease, but in my mind, that is a lot cheaper than a divorce. So I would rather find out before we're married that I hate living with somebody than to just get married. Then I find out I hate something that they do and it's a deal breaker for me. And then I spend 4 times as much on a divorce. So
I have another bouncing off thing.
Yeah, I mean.
Let Brian talk, Taylor.
I'm sorry. Just one more thing.
I mean, just because to what Mom was asking, I definitely think that. Well, and it goes to like off of what Alexis was saying too. I mean, you know, I think that you can easily get away. It all depends on that individual and that person. And I think that like if you two are at least alike in certain ways, there's a lot of different outlets on how you can get away. I mean, whether it's like you have a lot of different friends, whether you like to go out a lot, whether you like to spend time like the place where you live. I mean, there's a lot of different places with common spaces, and you can go different places. So you can get away. It just depends on you, the type of person. I mean, if you're a homebody that just likes to sit at the house all the time, then yeah, you probably can't get away. But the thing is, it's like, it all depends on if that is the type of individual that you want to be with. Like, I'd say I'm not a homebody. I'm not trying to sit at home all the time. I'm trying to be out. I'd say Aubrey is the same way. She's not really as much as my homebody when you think about it that way. So that's just how I kind of think of those things. Just, you can get away. Now, and then also in terms of like breaking a lease, I think it is also sometimes imperative just to understand, like, can one of those individuals sometimes afford to take over that lease for, a brief period of time, an extended period of time where it's not going to hurt that other person's finances or your person's finances. So you have to sometimes kind of think of that as well. and see, like, you know, if you could just budget that out and ride it out yourself for a short period of time.
Now, Taylor, there was something else you wanted to say?
Yes, I wanted to add, I feel like I hear the argument a lot of like, I don't want to live with somebody and see something they don't like. And then because I'm like, but if you're married, it's like, if you don't like something about somebody, you can't just run and leave. Like, you have to figure it out. You have to communicate. Like, and it's just like, and what are the things we're talking about when living together? Like, a towel not being folded, like, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, these are itty bitty things that it's just like, if we
say the same thing, that I feel like a lot of these things that people are like, I discovered all of a sudden, you should have known. Like, how did you not know?
I want to know what these things are discovering, because I've discovered a lot of things about my man, not from living with him, just from how he does things, how he conducts himself,
From
how he
regular
handles
interactions
business.
that you may have on a date?
Huh?
From just regular interactions.
From just everyday activity to being with him during the day to see, like, I can study and observe the way he just handles things and goes about things to know like enough about that. Like, you know what I'm like, what are these deal breakers that we're talking about when I'm living with somebody where I'm like, oh, not you. Like, not this one. I just want to know, and this is not me coming for anybody, but I would just really like to know, because a lot of my friends tell me this and they'll be like, man, I lived with them and I just discovered so much. And I'm like, well, what are you discovering? Because, like, damn, like, what is it you're discovering? Are they like, what? Like, I'm sorry.
I think that comes from like your intentions again, because if you're not intending on like really setting this person to love their whole life and soul and marry them, these are things that you wouldn't notice. Like, one thing about, like, people are like, oh, I've literally heard someone say, well, he was really messy. How did you not, like, for me, I'm a messy person. My car is messy. That's the start, right? That's
right. There's giveaways. There are giveaways. Like,
my car is full outfits, 16 pairs of shoes. Like, you know, if this is what my car looks like, I'm a clutter.
You know, I'd say on that, it's just, there are certain things that you can hide from an individual when you're not living with that person. I mean, like,
but then that's where you're
that might be. I don't know, but I'm just saying,
a kleptomaniac or something.
No, like, so when I say hide, I mean, like, as in, like, that person could try to, like, clean up their place before somebody could try to clean up their place before an individual gets there, or, you know, they could try to do. There's just certain things that, like, you may just not see, like. Your partner may like to use the bathroom with the door open, and you have no idea that they like doing that at all. I mean, small. I just use those things as an example, because then they're like, oh man, I didn't even know that about, like, you know, I didn't know that about her at all. I guess that's fine with me, but it's just I think about those small things, and, like, to your points, Alexis and Taylor, that you know, it's just small little things that on some people they can just, it doesn't matter, but then other people it's just small little things that, like, could possibly nag them, that build up over time, that you just had no idea. You know, I might not know how somebody talks to their parents, because I'm never listening to them on the phone to hear how they talk to their parents or their mom and their dad. And then you see, like, wow, like, they really have, like, an awful relationship. They don't respect that individual. But then all of a sudden, when you're living with that person, you just notice those things all the time. And that's just a couple of examples that I just use that you could possibly see.
Brian and Aubrey, do you also think that it is a financial thing? Like, if you're together, and if you're together a lot, and it may be spending the night over one another's house, that it may just be cheaper just to go ahead and get a place together? Do you think that's something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we lived together, I was staying there a lot, and it almost felt like my apartment was just a waste of money. So, I think if you tend to spend a lot of time together, especially like overnight and things like that, it can feel, and not just me, but I've had friends that say, like, I feel like my apartment is a waste of money because I spend, you know, maybe one night there a week, or I spend very little time there. So I think that's just, like, one point of view for that.
And then I think on that aspect too, like, where, I mean, there's a reason. There's more younger people, 18 to 24, 26, that live together than ever before. And the reason why, a lot of that has to do with finances. unfortunately, after like, 08, 09, a lot of people started, starting to move in with each other, not because some of them, it's not because they wanted to, it's just based upon the financial aspect of it. So much apartments cost an ungodly amount of money these days. And some people, they might not have the opportunity to like live with another roommate. They might have to live by themselves. They have a partner. And to Aubrey's point, it's like, well, if I'm spending all of this time with this individual and I'm spending like all of this money for a 1-bedroom apartment that I'm never in, maybe it wouldn't behoove us to live together. So that's just one of your, your questions, Mom. But I can't speak to that because that was not one of the reasons why I did that. It's just, I do know that that is a reason why a lot of individuals do tend to do that. It's just because, unfortunately, we're faced with financial situations where rent is just very expensive.
All right. Now, Taylor, again, was there something else that I saw that you were eager to say something else while he was talking?
Where is all these people's friends at? Like, y'all, if you want to save your money, you don't got a homegirl, you don't got a cousin, like you don't, why does it have to revert to your man's or to your girl? Like, because it's like, why? Like, and that goes back to what Alexa was saying, like, about like healthy amounts of space away from each other. It's just like, yeah, I understand the financial thing, because who wants to pay a whole bunch of like a crazy amount for rent if you don't have to? But it's like, is this like in the event that you don't have friends
like
to
Taylor,
share, or
you
people
have roommates, right? You split rent between two other women, right?
Me?
Yes, Taylor.
Yeah, like I split rent right now, which is cool. Like I have my own room, like we have a house basically. So I'm just like, I don't really.
So your argument to his point is that if it's a financial thing, that you probably can find maybe a friend to room with or to split rent with. Now, Alexis, do you live by yourself or do you pay?
No, I am infamous for living with people that I don't know. And I was just about to say that is me. I will not listen. I will find somebody somewhere, somehow. Facebook, the internet is just so big. I will find somebody to live with. To Brian's point about financials, that I feel like that stems from people wanting to find the easy way out of things. And when you're with somebody all the time who is your significant other, that seems like the easiest thing to do because you're already with them. But if that relationship does not pan out, then you really, that wasn't really the best option for you. So like I said, I always live with people. Like I've lived with my best friends before. Right now, the girl I live with, we met on Facebook. Like you will find people to live with. I live in Charlotte, so the cost of living is astronomical. So we will find a way to share that rent. And I lost my train of thought on finding the easy way out. But I just yeah. Oh, what I was gonna say was, there are some things you can discover about people if you are extremely observant. I remember I was in college, I discovered that my boyfriend at the time had OCD because he stayed the night. The first time he stayed the night, I'm like, this man has OCD. You have flushed the toilet 3 times. Every time you went to the bathroom. Like this is not normal. Like you have a problem that needs to be addressed. But that is being observant. Like I want to be in your business because I need to know that the person that you are, that as you are, not the person that I can fix you up into, the person you came to me as is somebody that I can see myself spending the rest of my life with. Of course, like as people grow and change, there might be things that come up that start to nag you that didn't nag you before. And that's a you thing though. Like, so I think the problem is when people are saying like, oh, you discovered about them that bothered you, or did you discover that something bothered, like something from yourself would not tolerate that type of behavior? And it's just kind of like, I think it's kind of like an issue of not taking accountability for being observant about yourself. And then also trying to not actually put in work to finding a way to make your life sustainable. You want to go live with a man, go do that. But when it's time for him to dip, what you gonna do?
Yeah, now that's, I mean, and again, I'm older, so you all may say I'm old school, but yeah. I'm here to say that I didn't live with my husband before we got married. We lived together for a month, and that's only because we were about to get married and we got an apartment. but we've been married now for 34 years. And it was, you discover things when you're married. I mean, we dated for about a year and I knew about him. I know that he was, a good provider. I know that he's was a fun person, but all of those things that we discovered through the dating process and from being around each other, but we didn't have to actually live together. And of course, you discover a lot more things when you actually live with somebody. But they're not like so much deal breakers. And like to Taylor's point, like little things like right now, I still can't stand the fact that he's not as clean with the bathroom, but then I'm not as clean in the kitchen. But so one person may take over one thing and the other person may take over something else. So what do you all say about that as far as actual commitment? Because if you actually want to get married, it's a commitment that you have, and it's not something that you can just get out of because somebody is,
yeah. So in response to that, I feel like we've talked a lot about like your own personal space. And I kind of just like don't, when you're married, that's not going to change. You're not going to get to like go. I mean, you can go somewhere else and have your own personal space, but that being whether you're just dating or whether you're married, I don't think that's any different. So that was just something I wanted to say. And then also in response to, I lost my train of thought. What did you ask right before this?
Oh, no, I was talking about the commitment aspect of
yeah.
Yeah.
So I probably would never like move in with somebody just that I was casually dating and didn't see a future with. So I don't know that, I mean, I know there are people that do that. That's not something I would do. So when I come from an aspect of you should live together, it's obviously like somebody that you're really serious about. So
I did have something to say in response to Aubrey, sorry. The aspect of like not being able to like get away or whatever, it's like, yes, you can't just like up and leave for like a week at a time or something if you're married, but the deal breakers are different. If I'm just dating you, I could be like, you know what? I do not like that he listened to this one artist. It's time for me to go. Like that, it could be as little as that because there's nothing tying into you. We have no kids. We have no bills together. Let me just end this right now and go. But if you are married, there is so much more to consider when it comes to like deciding to leave something. And I think that's what it is for me that like makes the living together aspect like so different. It's like, I really could leave over nothing if we're just dating, I really could. But if we're married, like you have, like you said, it's just so much more expensive that those little things that you could leave your boyfriend over, you're not about to leave your husband over. But to Ms. Morgan about what you were saying about dating, I think part of it is that dating is so different now too. So like when you and your husband were dating, that was probably a years long process. Y'all were getting to know each other, going out all the time. Dating is not like that anymore. And people don't know each other for real before they get into these relationships because they're halfway dating, they're halfway courting. And you get to this relationship and you find out all these things about somebody because you never took the time to really understand this person's inner workings, inner thinkings. Like for me, I always tell people like, it's one red flag and I'm gone. I'm not about to sit here and reconsider. Nope, none of that. If I see something that I know, like this is something that I do not tolerate, like lying. I hate lying. If you lie about something stupid, that's the last time you're gonna talk to me. That's it, because I don't like lying. I don't do it. So
no,
it's not like
dating. Why is dating so different now? I mean,
dating is so different. I would say dating is so different now. It's just because there's just too many various options, and people, especially young people these days, they don't want to commit really to a lot of different things. So, I mean, there's dating apps now.
Like social media.
Now there's more women in the workforce. So when there's more women in the workforce, a lot of people are not really trying to get married like off the bat. The idea of marriage sometimes to a lot of people is not the same as it was when you guys were being courted by people your age back in the day. So I mean, things have changed where you see that people are having kids at a later date now. People are getting married at a later date. The marriage rate now is lower than people who are single. And I think that it's just, unfortunately, there's a lot more options. There's a lot more temptation, and there's a lot of people who are just open to Taylor's point. I think Taylor mentioned it earlier. oh, well, if you're married, I mean, you can't really do anything about it. I mean, and the sad thing about it, even people now at our age, they think of a marriage just as dating, where, you know, if it ain't going to work in a year, I'll just get a divorce. I mean, that's just how it is. But you see that now the divorce rates are so much higher because people, the idea of marriage, the idea of those type of relationships, it just seems like people are just like, you know what, I could just go and find somebody tomorrow. And that is the biggest reason why, even when people are looking at a relationship and living with someone, I mean, I hear you guys' points, but at the same time, like, you know, I could just break up tomorrow and find a different place. And it's just like, you know, it's the same thing. And to what Aubrey said earlier, you're not married, you don't have any finances together, and if you don't have any kids, it's a clean break. So what's the
But that sounds kind of sad, Brian, to me. I don't know what you said. Sounds extremely sad. It goes, we have come all the way back full circle to what I originally said about the test driving of a car. If you don't like it, oh, I'm not going to stick with that model anymore, or I'm just going to take it back to the dealership, or maybe after this 2-year lease is up, I'm out. But I don't know. But you all have really opened my eyes about a lot of things, about the fact that dating is a lot different, and I certainly understand that, because, like, I think you all met online. Is that correct? Or through a dating app.
Yeah.
Whereas I until a few years ago, we would never have thought about people dating like that. You know, not my age, but you know, we just did stuff the same old fashioned way. You just kind of meet somebody. I met my husband at a wedding reception, whereas nowadays it may have been online. But I really, really, really enjoyed this conversation. And like Alexis, what you were saying, you know, what's the point of living with somebody that you may not really be that serious about? And Aubrey, I understand what you're saying is that you wouldn't just live with somebody that you wouldn't be serious about. And then Taylor, your thing is you would live with somebody, but only if you all were engaged and really were about to get married or seriously thinking about getting married. And then Brian, you kind of were like, I don't know, just kind of like a free spirit, I guess. Almost like, you know, it's nice. There's some good things financially, and then however, if things don't work out, you know, but that's a lot of things, you know.
Brian is the leasing office. If you can sign the lease, move in.
Brian is the leasing office. No, but I really enjoyed talking to all of you all, and our time is almost up. But is there anything that anybody wanted to say just by way of closing, or that was really, really on your mind that you wanted to get off your chest?
I think all of this just goes back to people knowing themselves and being intentional about what they want. I feel like when you know yourself and when you are healed from whatever past or toxic thing you went through, it's easy, and you attract what you attract, like, you know, like you attract like what you want. If that person wants it, you guys will attract. And that goes back to just knowing yourself, to knowing what you want and really staying strict to what you want. Because I think some people, they'll meet people that they know don't fit the mold of what they want, and then they end up slipping up and they end up in this pattern and doing these things that they didn't even want to do in the beginning. So I think it just goes back to like knowing who you are, knowing what you want, and kind of just like not settling for that, being like, this is what I want. You're going to attract what you want, like, eventually. And so, and then after that, it's like everything about the process should be kind of seamless and quick, but not like not rushed, but timely. Because I feel like when you're being timely with a person, you should meet them, get to know them, maybe like 2 years, maybe even less. Some people get to know people in less than a year and they know that they want to be with that person. But I think that whole process, if it's who you want to be with, and if you guys are intentional and it's what you want, then it should be a pretty breezy process. It shouldn't be like, I'm gonna test the waters. It shouldn't be like, we've been together for 7 years and we don't know if we, like, I hear people be like, oh, we've been together 8 years and we don't know if we want to get married. That sounds crazy. Like, you guys don't know what you want. So I think
meanwhile Taylor's over here asking her man's A month in. So what are we?
And that's fine. And he is fine with it. He's like,
what
I'm
is
trying
this?
to get married. And he
Well, I
tells me,
think the bottom line is you have to know what you want.
have to know.
You have
And
to know what you
it'll
want
either
and
scare
what you will
somebody off.
tolerate and what you will not tolerate.
Yeah, it'll either scare them off or they'll be like, oh, great, that's what I'm looking for too. I told my man that, and he's like, yeah, I'm trying to be married. I'm not trying to waste any time. I want a family, A, B, C, D, F, G. I said, great. So
Well, all right. Well, we're at the end of our time, but I'm going to tell you, I have enjoyed this conversation, and I intend on having another edition of the Public Opinion Millennial Edition. So think of some questions, and if you have anything that you want to discuss, let me know. Well, that was extremely eye-opening. All I know is what I discovered from this episode is that things have changed a lot in regard to dating, but a lot of things have stayed the same. And what it comes down to is just personal preferences. And so everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And I'll see you next time for another episode of Public Opinion. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to my channel.